Okay, so here we've got a replay of the LMU boys together in our first tournament playing against Missouri State, who are all quite highly rated. They're like 1700 threes players, so pretty good, but we all felt like we did a pretty decent job against them, came out pretty strong, but ultimately made a couple too many mistakes. So first off, I just want to take a look at ballchasing.com here to kind of show off what we have. So I've already uploaded this replay, and you can see you have like a whole virtual 3D kind of replay that you can watch of the entire thing here. And it shows you all the players and everything that happened. But the really good stuff is in the stats here. So you have all sorts of cool stuff, like this. Shows you the difference between the two teams and the overall stats. But you have, luckily they did name the teams LMU and MSU for us in the nice private match, which is cool. You got shots, goals, assists, saves. So you can see they had a lot more shots here. Only 2-1, but you can see that the pressure was definitely all on their side and we had to make a lot of saves. Here's an overview of individual players too. I had 2 shots, 1 shot, and this guy had 7. You can see that. All that good stuff here. And you can see that reflected down here individually. And then there's boost, which can be really useful, I think, to kind of see what's going on. So here it's interesting, we have boost per minute. So we used a lot more boost per minute than they did. But you can see we didn't have, on average, we had less boost than they did, because we were using it a lot. And we had a lot more seconds with 0 boost, and fewer seconds with 100 boost. And you can see we collected more big pads. Not quite as many small pads, but you can see how we were using a lot more boost and they were being a lot more efficient with it, and you can also tell that they were using small pads, which speaks more to their positioning rather than going all the way out, grabbing a big pad and come all the way back in. And that's something that I'm really bad with. So you can see here in the players overview, I was using way too much boost, and I had the lowest average boost amount and way high in the seconds with 0 boost. I'm pretty bad at managing that myself. As you can see, I use a lot of boost while I'm already going supersonic. It's definitely something to try to work on. And you can see all the different times I collected boost pads, each individual person. Small pads here. See, I was trying to use a bit more of the small pads, I think. And then you can see the amounts here. Overfill boost, all these things. And you can see the boost pickup heat maps here. So you could see individually I picked up a lot of these back ones because I think I was on defense a lot, and this one a lot here, small pads. A bit more spread out here. Fluffy was a forward a lot, trying to pick up this one, steel boost. See, these guys are maybe a bit more spread out. And then scrolling up we have positioning, which is a good one, I think. So you can see the average distance of teammates was pretty consistent, although I think Shonnu might have been a little farther away. But you can see kind of a triangle here. Placement in the stadium, so you could see Shonnu was a bit more back, more defensive third. But this kind of speaks to all 3 of us being in the back third or the back half, because we were kind of on defense the entire time, I think. Closest to ball, you can see this kind of thing here. And this is interesting, I think, the most, is the positioning heat maps. So Fluffy, you could see all 3 of us really hard on defense. Shonnu definitely hiding a lot in the net there, whereas they were a lot more all over the place, being able to kind of rotate around, keep their pressure going, whereas we were really on defense the entire time. And then let's see, movement. You can see seconds at supersonic speed and boost speed, on the ground versus in the air, power slides. So a lot of interesting things here. You can see the breakdown in the overall speed. Kind of speaks to me using a lot more boost there to try to stay fast. And then we have, what else do we have? Ball. So we get the ball possession, where it was actually fairly even, but we lost out in the end. They had a bit more possession. And the pressure where the time the ball is in a side, so this means that it was on our side 58% of the time, I think, which you can see here from the heat map, where it was definitely a lot of times being ricocheted around our half, and when we had the ball you could see we were kind of holding it, I think, trying to get it out of these corners, but they were doing a good job pushing it away. And then as far as demos go, there was only 2, I think, and then you can see everybody's settings here, which is kind of cool. So that's ballchasing.com. Pretty useful tool I like to use in replay analysis and stuff. But here, I'm going to take a look at this replay. Hopefully I don't drone on too long, because I do have a tendency to do that. But you can kind of see how already off the bat, kickoff, they kind of gain possession of it. And so now they're trying to pass it between each other. I think in this game, I'm pretty sure this was the first game against Missouri State. I only ended up saving 1, and I named this as game 2, but I think this was actually game 1 where we actually came out strong and there wasn't overtime. But I might be wrong there. But I'm pretty sure this is the first game, and you can kind of tell that they were sort of warming up here. They didn't have quite the rotations that they needed, but it allowed us to be kind of strong coming out. So you see right here, I think Fluffy's very good to go for this fast to try to get it past him, but then ends up hitting it a little bit farther away where he might not be able to go for this challenge again because it's a little too close to par over there. But here I'm trying to kind of be in a good spot, try to be aggressive if I can in case Fluffy can't get the ball, or if he can get it somewhere close, I'm close by like this, and I go for a shot, but it was too weak, and he's able to keep control of it here. And I try to just, you could rotate out here, but I think if I just, I like to use the fly camera. As you can see that Shonnu is a little farther back here. If I had just rotated out, I think it would have opened up too much space, so I wanted to at least try to put a little bit of pressure on him and force him to do something like this, which is why he ended up going up here and having a pretty nice shot actually. If we look at it from his perspective, he's able to get off the wall and have kind of this nice backflip flick almost here. But we get a good save, although right here I think positioning wise for Shonnu, just a little bit of a mishap there with the bump kind of ends up pushing Fluffy back a little bit so he can't go. But I think definitely a good call in trying to see. Right there I was just trying to get this past this guy, which I think worked out well. So right here we have a good opportunity to take control of this ball. But this touch, I think it was a good touch, but right there you can see it ends up kind of giving possession away. So if maybe you could have taken a lighter touch there, it might have helped us a bit better. Maybe if you had swung, let's use the fly camera. You see you got some time here too. And actually the goal is potentially open, but I think this guy is going to be coming in, so I think the best course of action would probably be to try to swing this way and kind of keep a light touch and try to take a dribble here, because this touch ends up putting it a little too far out. So now he's able to go up for it, and Fluffy knows this, so he's trying to sort of panic to get some kind of a challenge on it. You see right here he's positioning himself in a good spot to try to be close by. So that's good positioning. And then right there, once he realizes that it's a little too far gone, it's a little too late for him to go up. So that's my sorry about Discord notifications if that's happening, but so that's kind of my intention there, is trying to, you know, now that I'm the last back, I don't want to immediately hit this back to the other team. I try to whip around and try to hit it forward if I can, but again that ends up putting me in a bad spot. Let's look at my perspective here. So right here I noticed that I kind of need to take control of this, but if I just try to dribble it, this guy's going to challenge me, so I want to hit it past him. But I don't have that much boost, so this hit ends up being a little too far forward and kind of ends up being straight to him. So that's why I was trying to dunk him, but ends up giving possession back, and back to the other team, that is. And here I think we've got very good aggression here to try to keep that constant pressure going so that they don't get free shots, which is nice. But then again, I think some of the hits, like this one, not necessarily so good, because this is another one that could have used a lot more, I guess, precision, just trying to make sure you're putting the, hold on one second, I'm going to mute my Discord here just in case we get more notifications. But I think right here, just sort of hitting it just to hit it is not exactly the best thing to do, because it ends up just hitting it forward to the other team. So I think if if you were able to hit that shot a bit farther, a bit more powerful, or take it into a controlled touch or a pass or something like that, you want to try to be as purposeful, that's the word I'm looking for, with your shots. So that's a big thing, is trying to make sure you're making the best out of every shot that you make, or every ball touch anyways. So then I think the other team here does kind of a good job of passing this to each other. But Fluffy again with a good consistent pressure here off of this wall to try to keep this going forward. And Paro there with a good hit, trying to keep it back to his team, but we're able to keep this in our control here. And this shot's a little sketch, I think. I'm gonna take a look at this from Shonnu here. And back it up just a little bit, because I think right here, he ends up going out a little bit, which I think might be, you know, either a bit too trusting or it's a good trust, depending on what happens. But the problem is if you end up getting caught in this kind of going out and then circling back and then having to go back out again, you see now you've kind of been too wishy-washy with the positioning, so now you're a little bit too far out if something good happens, because you need to be the next one up. Because as you saw on the left side of the screen, I am rotating out. So I think there was enough time there that it worked out, but in the situation back here, I think if you're going to go out for this, you should go out and trust instead of turning back and then watching. I think you could probably do better by just picking one. But in this case, it ends up working out because the other team is being a little bit passive with it. And I think that's probably because they're higher level, because they're typically used to people respecting their control of it. So, and because they're warming up, they potentially might not have as much of the control as they need. So then right here is another good touch, but I think if you had gone up for it soon, a bit quicker is all on that one, it might have saved us a bit. Because now it's kind of a tough spot as we're all sort of rotating around. So this was kind of not a good spot we wanted to be in here. Luckily Fluffy's able to take this. I expected him to push it the other way, which is why this was a little awkward. But I think he went underneath with the Dominus and ended up kind of whipping it this way. So I was left a little confused as to what was going on, kind of scrambling around. But at least we get some good touches here. Try to keep this, keep that one away. But I missed mine. And I think they were doing a pretty good job of putting this towards the net. But Shonnu here had a really nice touch that saved their asses a bit and had a really nice clear and ended up actually setting it up for me all the way out here. You can see that was my challenge there that I kind of missed. So here's a rough spot because we only have one guy back, and so if Shonnu doesn't hit this very well, it could be rough. But see, with this really nice hit, it ended up putting it into a really good spot for me where they were rushing back. And now I have all the boost, and I have just a banger of a shot here with the old let's go. And so right here we get kickoff, where actually it worked out fairly well for us, I think. Or I should have read this better. These hits off of the corner are always tough to read, and I ended up trying to go for the bounce, but really should have just been more patient with it. And so it was a little sketchier because I'm the last back, so this could have very easily been a goal, which is why I tried to rush back as fast as I could, but I knew that I would be able to save this if he tried to shoot it, and thus I did. And so you can see how they're kind of rotating fast and trying to pass it a lot. You see all the passes that are coming out from the other team. If we kind of look here, pass out to him, pass out to this guy. He's passing it back, pass back in the middle. There's a lot of passing going on at high levels like this, which is really what you want to look for, what you want to try to do. But it's just all about 1, 2, 3 kind of, you know, being in the right position, being where you need, and just looking for the passes, being ready for them when they come, just being purposeful with your touches like I mentioned earlier. You really don't want to just hit it just to hit it. You want to make sure you're either shooting the ball if you have a shot, passing the ball if I have that option, you know, looking for that option at least, or controlling it yourself if you don't have many other options, or at the very least you want to get a good 50 on it so that it's not going straight back to the other net. So then I think right here, let's look at Fluffy's perspective here. A little bit farther out, but I think that could be justified because this could end up going back pretty quickly. But I think right here, very good aggression, I would say, in trying to get this shot out. I would have tried my hardest to aim for that top right corner because that's going to be the hardest for him to save. But either way, it was a good shot. They just were good at defense, so that one didn't go in because of that good save. And then right here, I think, in this situation, he had the opportunity to shoot, or the opportunity to hit the ball, I should say. And he chose to kind of hit this up and to the left. I'm not sure if he was trying to pass to Shonnu, who would have had to turn around. But see, I think in this situation, you can see Shonnu there on the left is going to be coming back. Probably doesn't have boost. He's got some. But see right here, he's probably not expecting to have to go for that. So I think this touch is kind of a missed opportunity here for us. Because nobody's really going for that ball, so either Fluffy has to go for it himself, which is not really going to work, or they just kind of have to, that's what he does here. Or the other team's just going to take the ball, and that's really what ends up happening. So I think instead, maybe a shot, or something that would have put it farther, I don't know, towards the backboard or something, could have been good. Although, I at least like the idea of trying to pass it up there, because that's definitely something that could be done if there's coordination, at least on our end, you know. So then right here, let's look at it over here. This is kind of a sketchy spot. A little bit of a miscommunication there. And I think the positioning's not great here from Shonnu on the defensive end. But at least he's a little confused, I think, but he's doing what he needs to do. And we end up keeping control of it. I think that's what we did fairly well this game, is stopping them from really doing too much damage. Although unfortunately, as we'll see before the end of this, we couldn't quite stop it all, which is really why we lost. But I think we have relatively good positioning here, because I think this is a decent spot. But let's see, in the fly cam, you can see kind of how this works. I end up sort of going for this ball, and I'm going to get another touch. And the two back here end up kind of converging to try to do the same thing. So I think that's just kind of a sort of a miscommunication, or at least a misunderstanding error here of who's going to be going for this, because Shonnu could very easily come up for this for the pass, and Fluffy could rotate kind of back farther, or the other way around, Fluffy could rotate in here. So I think both of them are kind of justified in it in their own right, but one person needs to do that. So that is why this ended up going back. But I think this is really good control here from Fluffy to try to move this forward. Doesn't have enough boost to really keep it going though. But I think we have solid pressure here in trying to keep it up against their net. And this is a really good pass attempt, but Shandy there did a really good job of staying on it so that it wasn't dangerous. So I really like that. And I'm try not to pause it quite as much, because I'm sure this video is going to take forever if I do. And there's an overtime to look at. But we can see a little bit of sketchiness on the defense, as often happens. I mean, you're getting kind of boost starved. There's a double commit right there, where I think I probably should have left it, I think, here. A lot of these kind of situations, it's equally viable for either of us to go, but because I didn't really see Fluffy, and Fluffy wasn't really sure if I was going to go, we both didn't really want to take the chance. So, and then, right here, it's a bit sketch. I think right there, one tip that I have as a goalie would be to really make sure in this situation here. There's a good spot to be in. You got 100 boost. You know there's going to be a shot. And then right here, or so, you want to read this shot, and you could already tell this is not going. This is going to hit the crossbar, and it's not going to go in. So jumping up like this is going to end up making it pretty bad, because right here now you're in a worse spot, and if he had actually hit this on net, which eventually they do, it's going to end up going in. So right here, If you can recognize right there that this is not going in, then right there, instead of jumping, you can stop and wait. And you can either wait for the rebound and try to see what's going to happen next, or sometimes you really have to go up for the rebound if you can be fast enough. You see right there, if you were able to stop and wait for what happened here, right here, let's see what happens. So boom, right there, I would have stopped and then waited for this and then seen this, and then I would have tried to jump up here and probably try to get onto the rebound, because you could see if you waited for that one and you waited till like here, maybe you could save it, but it's going to be tough to read because it's too late. So I would have waited for this hit. It would have been sketch, but tried to go up and try to fly up and get this rebound and meet that right there to stop it before to challenge him, basically 50-50 him, so that we could stop that one from going in. So just small mistakes there will really get you on defense, and so that there is where it is tied up. And right here, this I'm not sure if this guy missed or faked or what, but it ended up faking to the point where this guy's able to get a good hit on it. And I think that jump there is a little bit panicky. Something to try to look out for is trying to be very purposeful, not only with your touches, but with what you're going for in general. So just trying, like the same thing with trying to read the backboard in the other save, the other defensive position there. It's kind of about, you know, not going for stuff if you don't have to, and being able to read what you may or may not have to go for can be very useful so that you're not panicking. I think right here is another potential opportunity. I think this positioning is a little far back. I think I get the understanding in that it could go back very quickly, but the problem is if you're a bit too passive on it, then what happens is when there's a pass out like this, see how it's you and Paro basically rushing to this ball here. And if you see Paro's positioning right here, he's in front and Shonnu is behind. So I think if instead, if you'd play this a little bit more aggressive and you were up here, then you'd be in a similar position. So then maybe you could go up really fast and just be a little bit faster to the ball. And you might have actually been able to get an opportunity there to shoot it, or maybe dunk him or something there. It could have been just a little bit faster, and that's not by using more boost or whatever it is. That is being faster simply by position and aggressive position. So that's one thing that I find very important in high-level threes anyways when I play them, is really trying to make sure that you're in an aggressive position and being quick to the ball by just being there. Just being in a position where you can get there faster because you're closer to the ball. So, big thing. And then right here, this is good here. Right here, he sees this ball and then recognizes, instead of turning or jumping or panicking right there, that he needs to wait for this. And you can see that SgtPickle, I'm not on the screen here, so I think you can assume that I'm probably going to be coming back to net, but you don't know for sure. So if we watch this and fly, you can see I'm supposed to be coming back to net here, so this is something that is kind of sketchy because you don't really have time to flick your camera this way to see if I'm here. You just kind of have to either hope that I'm there, which if that was on I probably would not be able to get, or you know, figure it out for yourself whether or not you think, you know, right here this is worth going for. I probably would have gone for this if this was me personally, because I probably, with 40 seconds left and we're tied, I wouldn't really want to take any chances. So I think this is relatively justified in going up for this. But again, I think maybe it's difficult to tell if this is going to be going on net, that is, or not. But I think maybe with a bit of experience you might be able to tell that this is not going on quite, and then maybe this was not worth going for. But I think if you're going to go up for it, if you're fast enough to be able to hit it, I think it's worth going for. But I think right here, just a little bit too slow. So it ended up being a little bit, not suspicious, but a little sketch. And that's why I had to go for this. And we were kind of in a rough spot here, but luckily had some good touches, made it out unscathed. And this was pretty sketchy because that dude could have hit that for sure. At 1700 level, he could definitely hit that one on. So maybe a little bit sooner up on that challenge. So you can see how we're, a little bit sketchy. And then right here, this is definitely a bit too far back. You can see both of us are up here, so when it comes time to, like, around here when you might have to go for it, you're going to be much too far back to be able to go for it. So even though you want to play passive and you want to make sure that it's not going in, it's actually sometimes detrimental to do that kind of a thing when it's too low like this, like 10 seconds left. That's honestly why a lot of people get scored on with like 0 seconds, is because they think, oh, sometimes we need to waste time, or we need to just play really passive so that they won't be able to score. But really, sometimes the best defense is just a good offense. That's what I kind of mean with consistent pressure and just making sure we're always touching the ball. Because if we're always hitting the ball and we're always putting pressure on it, then they won't have any chance to shoot it, right? So if we're playing too far back, you're giving them too much space, and you're just allowing them to shoot, and that's what gives them opportunities. So right off of the overtime, though, right here, really beautiful pass. And I think that's just an opportunity that definitely, a really, really good opportunity that could have been sunk right there into that top corner. So just a miss there, which is too bad, but it definitely happens. So not to worry. It's definitely a lot better to have the opportunity and missed it than to never have one at all. That's what I would say. So we could have had it there for sure. And then we have this right here is pretty sketch, because again, they definitely could have hit this. I think this, because you know that you're probably the only one here, there's nobody behind you, I would say as soon as you see this, you would want to go up as fast as you can, which I think surely you probably did, but try to just be a little bit faster on these, because right here I would just go up, and because like you need to be able to get that block, because the only reason why they didn't score really was because that guy just barely missed it, and that's really not what you want. Because of course if they had just been good, or been better, then we would have lost right there. So I think right here we kind of lost out on our pressure a little bit and let them take the ball all the way back, which is not good practice. But I think I tried to keep this going by passing this way, which you could have turned left and gone up the wall for, but I understand it didn't have boost and it was a little hard to read, a little fast. I might not have expected it myself. And then of course I missed this really bad. That really badly right there, which is not good. But we get some decent pressure and just trying to at least get a hit on it so that it's not actively going back so far. And then right here is just, a little bit sketchy, but I'm just again trying to make sure, like right here, I'm up really fast, because if this guy hits this on, Shonnu's probably not going to be able to do much about it. So that's why I just boom, made it right there. And then right here, I am actually trying to go straight down and into this challenge, but you could see Fluffy here kind of bumped me away from it after he got the boost, which I think I might have been able to use there, so could have been nice to lead that one. But he went for it afterwards, so it was alright. And so you can see a little bit sketchy here on some of these hits, could have gone poorly, but I think we're still doing a pretty good job of trying to stay aggressive, because what happens especially when they're good and you realize that you're getting a little bit scared, is you tend to play too passive. And I think we did, at least here, like Fluffy did a pretty good job of trying to stay aggressive, at least, because that's really all you have. That at least is the biggest weapon in your arsenal, is trying to remain aggressive and try to stay on the ball as much as you can. Because without that pressure, you're not really going to be able to do all that much. You're just going to play defense a lot. So here I think was a bit of a miscommunication. You could see right here, Fluffy gets demoed. I try to go for the ball, but I end up going for the block instead, understanding that he could get a pass. So this opens us up for kind of a sketchy situation. But at least we block it. I think the hit's not great, but because it's just out of a pure save, I wouldn't criticize it too much, because number one goal is definitely trying to block the ball before trying to get a better hit on it. And then right here, Fluffy goes in for it. And I think right there, and just kind of faking it or playing it a little slow, I think just was a bit of a confusion because he could have tapped us forward. I think this was just what Shonnu was looking for. So Shonnu ends up going for like a demo play here. But I think that's kind of, if you look from his perspective, he's just going for the demo and then all of a sudden this happens. But if you look from Fluffy's perspective, you know, he doesn't have much boost, which is I think why this happened. He doesn't really have much boost and he's trying to get a 50 on it, but doesn't get a good 50. And now because Shonnu ended up committing really far forward to go for a demo, this ends up being a pretty bad situation because now he's not rotating back. So that's why it all ends, because from my perspective you can see this is what happens. I'm waiting potentially if this ball pinches to the right for a pass to try to shoot it, but it ends up going kind of nowhere basically. And then right here I try to get a challenge on it, but I think either partially I didn't realize that Shonnu was going for the bump play, or, well, I think either way it would have been bad, because even if Shonnu is rotating back for this ball, it's still going to be, like, this is just a bad challenge either way, so it's really going to be harmful. So I tried to get a good challenge on it, but he read what I was going for here, because I was trying to go for a no flip type of thing, because I thought, you know, maybe he would try to take it slower. I'm not really sure. But he ended up reading it really well and getting this really good pinch basically off of my car, off of this 50. So that's really what led to it, because now he's got this good 50 and there's nobody back and I have to rush back with no boost. And I'm thinking, dear God, please let me get this rebound right here to try to pinch it to the right. But he's just faster and I could not pinch it out in time. If we look at it from his perspective here, going back a little bit in fact, we see here this is the save, and then kind of got faked out there, which I think worked well, but then Shonnu kind of went out and he was able to get that nice 50 because his teammate was right there, and then read that just super well and got this really nice hit, and then he was able to just put his car where it needed to be, and that's game. So I think overall it was a pretty well played game, I think, and we came out pretty strong. We had him on a few different spots that we definitely could have scored, and we ended up going out in an overtime. So I think it was a really strong showing, and overall pretty good stuff. Just a few things to work on in terms of just, I think, getting coordinated. We still have a ways to go in terms of just getting a feel for the coordination and keeping that really strong throughout the entire game. But I think Shonnu had a few problems here and there with some of the things that I mentioned, like not getting the greatest purpose and placement and power on his shots, and potentially getting a little confused with positioning. But I think for what it's worth, he did a really good job actually of fitting in. I mean, this is honestly a pretty high level game, or at least the players that we're playing against are quite experienced and quite high level. So I mean, for somebody who's Champ 1 or Champ 2, I feel like really has the potential to be even higher for sure, because being able to fit in with a rotation this well, and some of the shots that I've seen him get are pretty damn good. So I think Fluffy's overall did pretty well in this, and I really appreciate his aggression and the ability